Madeline, I never planned on ever getting as close to a cat as I did with my cat breed. It wasn't that I didn't think it, well, I don't know, maybe I didn't think it was possible. I felt it was like too much pressure to put on an animal. She had spent 16 years with me every day, except for when I was in the hospital with my car accident. And she was livid when I got home from that. I never imagined walking into answering an ad in the fall of 2013. I know I adopted 3 times that year. Since losing Tyler, I still wanted a male. I still wanted a male, a younger male. Casey and King were older males. Rocky was an older male I had at the time. Rocky and King had passed away. Raul was older. Miranda and Patches and Pumbaa were very, very young and vivacious. Baby was also with us at the time. And I really saw a void in the group, like a void of a certain age group of activity, a void that was created by Tyler's death. That I guess other group members, Casey and King were a little older than Tyler, a few years older than Tyler, so they were more mellow. And at the time, Miranda was young, Pumbaa was young, Patches was young. So they were very, high energy and with not enough activity. King and Casey were basically on weight management at that point. So they weren't really like the most active of cats, and Miranda was the best mouse. Pumbaa was really... Rocky was more of a grooming type than a really, I don't know. He wasn't really like a vivacious, playful type. He was an older male. He was like 8, 9 years old when I got him, and his mother was 13. And he basically cared for his elderly mother while he was here, so... At the time, I answered the ad, and I think it was the Manchester paper, for a kitten, a free kitten ad, a male kitten. So I really wasn't planning on coming home with 2. My plan originally was to get a younger male companion for some of the younger females that I had taken in that year. That was more, that could keep them busy, maybe hone in their motherhood skills and things like that, that would kind of grow into a more age-appropriate mate for them than some of the senior males that I had at the time. And I felt the senior males I had were very, very good with others. Casey was amazing. Always friendly. King loved younger cats. He was always looking out for younger kittens. And Rocky, unbelievable. I just had the best senior males, and I thought, this is the time to take in a younger cat, a younger male cat, because I had some really amazing older males, and I thought, that younger male is really gonna... Like Tyler. Tyler was just a joy. And I really credit my male cats for raising them properly, for being for setting that example. Rocky was just amazing with his mother. King was so respectful towards the young, and so was Casey. So, I really felt like we had a good situation for a young male cat. I did. And we did. So I answered this ad in the paper, in the Manchester paper. Excuse me. And it was for a male kitten. And when I got there was a female mother cat that was very thin, that was kind of towards the end of her, lactation, breastfeeding. There was like a plate of dry food. They were kind of a screened-in outdoor porch area. And there was only 2 kittens left. And I thought it was odd that, they had only listed one. And I said, oh, well, I'd hate to leave this one without anyone. And there was Madeline, struggling. She had the ton that, came out. So she would always eat with the tongue. The tongue comes out the side and hangs out the side of her face. And she had, at that time, she hadn't, her adult tooth set hadn't grown in. So her face was permanently hung open like that. And she was struggling with her tongue, coming out, trying to put this food in. And I was like, I can't leave this kitten here. So it's amazing to me that like the one best friend that I'm like now fighting and struggling so hard to keep in my life, like was actually just an afterthought. It wasn't even a thought in my mind when I left the house that day to go get what I thought was going to be one male kitten. And I ended up, I mean, I loved the kitten. He looked almost identical to Tyler. He was everything I wanted and then some. He was just a beautiful boy. But I immediately was taken aback by the struggles of this young female. And I was thinking to myself, how does she nurse? How does she breastfeed, And she was just, what a trooper, I saw her on this porch just struggling and struggling. And she was determined to get that food in her mouth. And I said, oh, and I mean, I already have this thought in my mind, like, I have these good males and I want to raise a nice, decent male, a decent male kitten. And I saw this female struggling with food and I thought, would they get aggressive towards her? And I'm like, King, Casey, Rocky? No. So I offered right on the spot. I offered to take her in. I said, and I know why they couldn't list her in the paper because there's a law about, the cats that you list in the newspaper. And these are these little tricks, little laws that I've learned about pet charities over the years, which is why I'm a private adopter rather than a warehouse. And I don't want to be a warehouse. I just want to have my private property owner rights respected. And perhaps maybe one day my animals' rights too, and my rights as a special needs person to retain my companion animals would be nice, But there are laws in the paper that state that you cannot list a cat like Madeline because of her TMJ. She was not to be listed in the paper. So only her brother, Chief, I named him Chief, and her Madeline, only her brother, Chief, was listed in the paper that year, in the fall of 2013, in October. So I went up to Goffstown, New Hampshire, and a private home. Got lost a little while. There was a lot of construction in the area at the time. There's, I think, a prison in that town. There's some historic sites. President Van Buren is from that town, I believe, or lived in that town. And so, over the years, like researching this and finding these things out and knowing what I do about Madeline, I now have certain cryptid suspicions about maybe her bloodline and where it goes to in that town. Van Buren was an owner of some large cats. We know that during slavery, dogs were used to both track slaves and, dispose of parts of them. So I'm sure that, in those days, Van Buren's cats were being fed a variety of let's say, protein items. And I wouldn't doubt it if this older Siamese color that now my area dog officer, they couldn't list them in the paper then, suddenly, 6, 7 years later gets an interest. So, I don't know, maybe there is some New Hampshire history connection to Madeline's Siamese color. Maybe the rarity, contributing to the rarity of her breed. And some of the aggressive cat movements across from her at various times, or her color at different times in history. But Madeline is so much more. This is probably going to be the longest one out of all these videos, because Madeline is so much more. I mean, just what I saw that day is probably what the rest of the world sees right now. They see a cat with a birth defect. They see a sob story. Every pet charity on earth would use her for fundraising, but they know damn well about that law, about the newspaper, and only being able to list healthy animals. So I'm wondering if, it sounds far-fetched to some, but I guess when you know some of the accounting tricks of animal control and the animal abusers within the pet warehouse environment here, very commercial, hyper-capitalist industry, if they could not use, if using Madeline in her state as she lived for 6 years in my house, was seen as like cruel and unusual, I'm wondering if they would take Bella or Boo Boo parts, a cat like Bella who already had dental work done, and, count the picture of the dental work being done there, but use the weight of the cat there. I feel there's just plenty of accounting tricks. And Madeline's just had it tough from day one, from the moment I saw her struggling to eat food. I knew she would have a hell of a time in life. And I knew I had a very good population of cats. I had very mature, I had a solid group of adult individuals that really did great co-grooming. I had another grandparent generation baby at the time who was very small. So I had 2 large cats, I had 2 small cats, I had 2 tuxedos. I had, I was up to like 8 or 9. I was up to the point where people would move out of a place and ask me if I could take in 2. They would see one that was sick or they didn't know what to do with, and, I really got good with them. And Madeline was just an adventure from day one. Just an adventure. She loved to climb. She was shy in the car at first. Loved to climb. I had to go to the fair that day. I had already, I'd been trying to reach the people about the kitten for probably like 3 days. I had like I left an intimacy message, and they didn't get back to me until like the day that I had to go to the fair. So I'll continue this in the next one.